I didn't get an answer. I'm nervous about Rob's then the picture. Whoa, here we are. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the neighborhood. I'm just going to here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get all my questions out of the way right now. Mandy has to take one day off and everything falls apart.
Yeah. I didn't realize how much of a glue she was to this whole operation.
Absolutely.
My God. Bunch of dumbasses. Oops.
Mandy Stobo is away for the day. She sends all her love. This may surprise you that she loves all of you, but she does. And she sends her love, but can't be here today. So, but she'll be back. And for our very special show tomorrow that she's going to be at. But we still have lots of friends here with us. We have the great Russ Broom and the great Jim Button. Let's pick on you first, Jim. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. I went and did 18 rounds of golf yesterday, which was pretty awesome. I'm paying for it today, though. It hurts to move. But it was tons of fun.
And how's your stamina with what you're dealing with medically? Does it make you tired?
Yeah, I've got terrible stamina. I took a golf cart. Normally, I would have liked to have. I felt really weird because I was with a 74, maybe a 68, and probably, and they were walking and I was riding on my cart. It just was like I was hanging my head in shame. I almost wanted to go up to every other person that I was within 100 feet and go, I'm sick, just so you know, when you look at those guys. I got something. I'm not a wuss.
I have a cancer card. I can hand it out if it helps.
Well, I'm not a golfer, but how long does it take to do 18 holes? It's quite a while, isn't it?
Yeah, 5 hours, 4.5 hours.
That's significant.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah. I wish I walked, if I had walked at my goal of 5K a day, I would have done it for sure, but
nice.
I didn't.
Rusty, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
I'm excited because and you guys know this, but it still makes me laugh that we get to how often do I get to say we get to meet this person on our show today? I mean, check that out, right?
Whoa.
I know.
Wow.
We're all saying.
I think I've seen her in every 1980s TV movie.
Yeah, no kidding. She was great in Square Pegs.
Yes. Yeah. Square Pegs. Wasn't it?
Sarah Jessica Parker was in there.
Oh, that looks very. Do you remember Sarah Jessica Parker in the Steve Martin movie? The first time I saw her.
The Jerk?
No.
No, that was.
That was Bernadette Peters.
Yeah, that's right.
But she was just like had a small part and was unreal. And then a little later on, we're gonna. This is what we call teasing the show. A little later on, we're gonna meet this guy. Yeah.
He looks so professional already.
Such a university grad.
Yeah. He says he couldn't find his high school grad, but he does have his university grad.
Well,
but
I don't think he graduated from high school then. He's lying.
Yeah. He was one of those kids that just went from grade 8 to university. So smart.
One of those prodigies. Vocal prodigy.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's his. So we're going to talk a bit about grads, and with our good friend, what did you call her from the 80s sitcoms? This one. We're going to talk to her.
Russ, what were you calling her?
She's like a square peg, so I don't know. She's a Muffy Tepperman. She's a Muffy Tepperman.
Muffy Tepperman.
That was the character's name on Square Peg.
Muffy Tepperman. What a name.
We just called.
Oh, hey, Muffy.
What?
We decided that your name should be from an 80s sitcom. Looking at this picture.
That's a better one.
And what's the name we're using?
That show Square Pegs.
Oh,
there we go.
Wow.
Sarah Jessica Parker was in Square Pegs.
Yes, she was.
This is my actual grad photo. I don't know what it's called.
Look at you.
The hair, right? I need
Yeah,
to try and
that
recreate that hair.
do it.
You look
And-
really determined in that picture.
Yeah.
You
I
look like
was
I want to get
so-
out of here and go change the world.
That was it.
Isn't
Yeah.
it? I just got a bit of backcombing to do, and then I'm going to change the world. That's all I got to do.
I need a
Can I
little
show
more
you-
final net, and I'm good to go.
What else I found when
Yeah.
I was looking for my grad picture?
Hey, Jolly Jim.
Jolly
Yes.
Jim. It's a pop-up book.
Oh, look at me go.
Huh?
I feel so. Yay, whippy doop.
Oh my goodness.
It's not
I fell
much
apart.
engagement, but yeah. I
Jolly
feel like
Jim.
you need to have that book.
Yeah, I
What
feel
do
like I
you
need to,
remember
too.
about your grad, Julie?
Oh, well, our grad was I went to Bishop Carroll,
Yeah.
and our grad was at the Palliser. I remember I was too shy to ask Mike to go to my grad. He went to Central and he graduated a few years before, and he kept talking about how awful his grad was, and he was hinting that he wanted to come to my grad, but I thought he was like, oh, I hate grads. And so I didn't have a date for grad. And I got my dress from Pennington's, which I didn't want to, but might fit because I didn't have a waist. And so I was kind of sad about my dress, and I didn't have a date, but it was fun. We had an after party. I can't even remember where. I can just remember hanging out in the stairwell and being like, I'm going to go. And we had all these memories are coming back. We had a math exam at 8 a.m. the next morning.
Oh, man.
Which, right? Like, who schedules an exam the next morning?
And of course, it's math.
Yeah, it's
And of
Mr.
course it's
Baker.
math, boo.
Was
My
it
teacher
Mr.
loves
Baker?
math. I know. Was it Mr. I can't remember who my math teacher was. Did you go to Carroll too?
No, but my math teacher was Mr. Baker, and he was mean.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I don't remember who the math teacher. I blocked it from my memory because math is not my forte. Unless I'm cooking, and then I can fractions. I'm good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Heard of this?
It's so good. Now, Julie, can you give us a quick update on the world of? We haven't got to talk to you for a couple of weeks.
I know.
I know you have food stuff you've been thinking about, but I'm also curious about how are restaurants doing? I know that a few of them are starting to open up. Friends of mine work at Earl's, and they're trying to get started. What's your sense of how they're doing?
I haven't heard much. A lot of restaurants are trying to sort of wait and see how other restaurants go, because what I have heard from restaurateurs is that they have one shot. Like, if they open and there's another wave or people aren't ready, this could be what puts them under.
Right.
So yeah, it's hard. I know Rouge opened last weekend, and I asked how it went, and they said it's okay. They've got a good setup though. Their old Cross House, they have separate rooms. They've got an upstairs and a downstairs and a massive side yard. So it works for social distancing. But yeah, I haven't heard much about how the other restaurants have been doing. I noticed that the Ship Patio was still not open on the weekend, which was interesting.
No, I think they're making a conscious decision to wait until.
Which is fantastic.
I've been getting, they send information out, but I think they're just being super cautious. They're one of the stronghold, to last 35 years as a bar.
Totally.
Means you got confidence.
Yeah.
To wait.
So yeah, I think a lot of them are sort of waiting and seeing how it goes. Because at 50% capacity, restaurant margins, I don't think people realize restaurant margins are like 2 to 5% under normal circumstances, right? Like it's a hard business even when there's not a pandemic going on. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it all unfolds.
Whoa.
And then
Tell me a bit about grads and food, because I also know we're bringing Ken on, and I want to chat. I want you around for that conversation too. But what have you been thinking about grads and food?
Grads and food. They have fancy dinners usually at grad, don't they?
Yes,
I don't
they
remember
do.
the dinner part, weirdly enough. But I looked back into my archives of cookbooks from 1989, which is the year I graduated, and pulled out a Calgary cookbook from 1989. A Spicy Touch, Nurbanu Nimji, who is one of Calgary's greatest food authors, cookbook authors. It's one of the self-published books. Everyone knows Best of Bridge. A Spicy Touch is like the Ismaili Bible for people who are moving away from home and getting married and needing to learn how to cook. So she used to teach cooking to university students across from U of C. This is loosely related to grad, right? But I don't know. I don't think of food when I think of grad. I think of, a lot of people are probably leaving home and realizing that they need to learn how to cook. And that's one thing that she tapped into this need in her community because she lived close to the U of C. A lot of grads left home and discovered that they didn't know how to cook, and so she started doing these cooking classes in her house for university students.
Whoa!
What a great mom!
I'm walking over to the oven because I made her sweet naan.
Oh, I love naan.
Oh,
but it's sweet. It's got sugar. I've never made a sweet one. It's got poppy seeds on top, and yeah. I figured since I have this amazing kitchen, I was just
gonna. I totally forgot you weren't in your own kitchen. I was looking. I was going, "Wow, you've got one decked out kitchen."
Yeah.
Oh, I know. Yeah, this is my personal kitchen. Yeah.
Wow.
So.
That's so. I remember at our grad, it was the first time in my life, I think, that I wore a suit, and it was a 3-piece suit, and then and gray, so very stainy, and then our meal was Cornish game hen.
Which are tiny chickens.
Yeah, why would we do that?
You just starved by the end of that meal.
I remember looking at it going, now I got to massacre an animal it was just like this massive, and all of us nervous grade 12s with our dates hacking at these animals it was just the worst. It was just
fancy
great.
though, right? Cornish hen was fancy. The fancy.
No kidding, right? You guys must have had a big budget up there in Edmonton.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we were throwing money around at the West End.
So
I had my suit, my grad, because I had grade 12 and grade 13 grad. My grade 12 grad, so the equivalent to you guys, was a cream color suit, probably the color of this, and a red tie. Those
nice.
red. My buddy Al topped me with red shoes. I went a little more conservative on the brown shoes, but
nice.
Bad fashion years.
I got a new
cummerbund.
Yeah,
cummerbund. Remember those? Do people still use them?
Do you know which is the right way to put those up?
I've had this argument so many times. You go. Say it's for your tickets. Is it for the tickets for the crumbs? I always get them wrong.
I thought you just threw them in the trash.
I always yeah. You leave them in the bottom of the bag when you rent the tux.
Right.
No, I always went the tickets.
Yeah, you keep your opera tickets in. I don't know if that's true or not. Okay, I got another picture to show you. Is it okay if I talk a little bit about this rock star? Look at this one I just got. Who's that guy?
Nice. Ken.
Who is that guy?
Man,
Who's that?
He looks great at his high school. How is that possible? Everyone's supposed to look like,
Yeah, he looks kind of timeless.
If he was here, I'd say. If he was here, I'd say he peaked early. Oh, there he is.
He is here.
I got it in just in time.
We were showing this one off, Kenny.
Oh, look at that tall drink of water.
Yes. Yeah.
Can I tell you, I'm wearing a polo shirt in that, Ralph Lauren. I worked at the YMCA in that era. I work at the YMCA now. I worked probably 2 years to buy that shirt because that was the holy grail of fashion in my mind. And
right.
Yeah.
It was not something I could afford. And I hid it from my parents for like months because I knew they'd be a little mad I bought a $60 shirt.
You spent, wow.
But you felt like the cat's meow, didn't you?
I'll tell you, it was oh man. Sorry.
I did the same. I worked at Marvelous Muffins in Scotia Centre. Do you remember?
I remember Marvelous Muffins.
And I had to lie about my age to get the job. But I bought those Benetton rugby shirts. Do you remember? They're Benetton.
Yes.
Yeah.
What color? White and blue?
White and green.
White and green.
Whoa.
Nice.
Fancy.
Oh
White and green.
I think I had like a vintage suit I bought from Harlow on 17th. You remember that?
Harlow, yes.
Yeah, Harlow was the best. And like in true Ducky from Pretty in Pink fashion, I had like a tuxedo shirt with a bolo top.
Nice.
Yeah.
You were that guy.
Yeah, I was that guy.
Shirt with tails from Le Chateau.
Oh yeah, Chateau, another hot.
The
In
crush.
grade 9,
Where one
I
can't
wanted
wash
to
it, it'll
buy
fall
my
apart.
grade 9 grad suit from Le Chateau,
Yeah.
and it was mint green.
Oh.
But my dad, God bless him, talked me out of it. Oh,
Oh,
he's a good man.
oh.
Wisdom comes
No
with age.
pictures. No
Yeah.
pictures.
Hey, so Kenny, if anyone doesn't follow Ken on Facebook, it's worth it because with the conversations you've started, I went off. I got in trouble with my wife because of you, Ken.
This
Because
should be good.
she said, "What is a?" And I mean, I don't want to get into it too much because we have bigger things to discuss. But the one you said, what is the one thing you're against that's not popular? If it's some whatever that
popular opinion, sure.
yeah. And I said I hate water bottles for kids because I think at least with our family, water bottles, they never drink out of them. They just forget them everywhere. So I spend all my time going, where's your water bottle? I left it at school. It's in my backpack. It's in the car. I don't know where it is. It's downstairs. It's upstairs. And they just haul these things around and never drink out of them. So I say bring back water fountains in everywhere and to heck with water bottles because it's just a pain. So that did not go over well at my house. So thanks for doing that for me, Ken. I appreciate it.
Hey, I trashed the Big Lebowski, and the hate mail I got, you will not believe.
I saw that. I did see that. Yes.
Wow.
So,
yes. Dave, you probably shouldn't have picked such a controversial topic such as water bottles. Like you knew you were getting in trouble when it was a water bottle discussion.
Now now let's ease this back and talk racism. I know water bottles is the huge deal, but no, Ken, you have had a lot of. First of all, I want to get your thoughts and your experiences around what's going on in the States, but also what's going on in our own country around Black Lives Matter and the racism and everything that's going on after George Floyd's death. But then also to maybe we'll talk a bit more. But first, what's your impressions about what's happening?
You know, Dave and crew, I've been really glued to it. You know, simply because I think there's a few things that are going on. I've spent a lot of time in the U.S. I've traveled extensively with the Heebie-Jeebies, my band, and I work for the YMCA professionally and have done tons and tons of work in different parts of the States. At one point, there was a map that was shown where all of the various big protests were sort of manifesting themselves in the last week. And I think there was, 20 places on the map, and I'd been to 17 of them.
Wow.
And I can tell you that this feels like a really important moment, not just for that country, but for the world. In the same way that there have been other important moments recently, things like the Me Too movement and others that have manifested themselves and sort of, this one doesn't feel like it's going to blow over.
Mm-hmm.
This one feels like a systematic and an important change. But I think one of the complications of that is finding our place, our individual place, or places, even as Canadians, in the conversation. I'm not a black man. Nobody on this call is a black man or a black person. But I don't think that means that we don't have a role. Mm-hmm. And that role is not to have all the answers. That role is probably more about having the questions. This is the moment I think that it's important to listen. And I think that is somebody said, it was in the flotsam and jetsam of the social media world in the last few days, but somebody posted something that really resonated with me. They said, maybe you can't figure out this challenge. Maybe anything you do in the next day, month, year, lifetime won't help George Floyd. But little acts of service and little kindnesses can actually make a huge difference. And maybe that difference is just in the circle around you. And it was really interesting, the conversation that I've been sort of having with my friends on social media, on Facebook and other places, is around two things. I think it's around powerlessness and powerfulness, and who's got the power to fix this thing, or who doesn't feel like they have the power to fix this thing. But mostly it's about fear. People are afraid for their fellow neighbor, or they're sharing stories of what they've seen or heard or has happened to them, or it's about the fear of not knowing what to do. You know, I want to help. I want to be a part of this. And there's a very wise woman named Jessica Bolduc. She is an Indigenous woman and a leader of part of something called the 4Rs movement. You can Google it, 4Rs, and it's around connecting Indigenous people and non-Indigenous people, youth, and looking for a brighter future. And she said something that was really powerful, and I don't know if this is her work, but it's where I heard it, through the Calgary Foundation. She talks about the whole notion of edge walking. We're on the edge of a cliff, and you know what's down below us looks very scary and catastrophic, and that kind of feels like where we are in the moment right now in history. But we can stay away from that cliff, or we can try to walk the edge. And sure, some stones will slip and we'll feel uncomfortable and we'll feel sad and we'll feel lonely and we'll feel vulnerable. But it's better to walk the edge and maybe make a few mistakes than it is to go, nope, that's not a problem. And, oh, I've got a black friend, I'm good. Or, you know, all lives matter. These are the opportunity right now is to walk that edge. And I think that is the case when it comes to Black or Indigenous or people of color or anything that might be gripping us right now. And I got to say, what's happening south of the border is affecting every aspect of our lives, whether it's economic or social or political. And it's certainly affecting my psyche and maybe many others. But this is a chance to walk the edge bravely and do it together.
Well said. Well said.
Well said. What do you think? I remember having a discussion with an activist in the gay rights and LGBTQ movement. And they said the biggest challenge, because I said, what do I need to learn? What do I need to know? And his point was, you need to be willing to be wrong. And not only do you need to be willing to wrong, you have to, the whole world has to say, it's okay if you're wrong. And now let's make it right. As opposed to, I didn't do anything wrong. It wasn't me. I didn't do anything wrong. It's like, okay, maybe I did. What's your sense of that in this movement?
Yeah, that's a really great question. My wife and I, we were chatting about this yesterday. Tara, who is my better half, she's Caucasian. And she said to me yesterday when we were chatting about this, she said, previously in her life, when you're a young teen or a early 20s, you have that, at least for her, she had that moment where she thought, well, these are historical injustices. This, I wasn't involved in colonization 50 years ago, 100 years ago, 200 years ago, it's not on me. But then what she said was, as she matured and she sort of thought about it, and she realizes now that I think we all have a shared responsibility in here. Sure, we can't change what happened in the past, but the action you take tomorrow, when you're walking down the street and you see somebody who's of the other, who maybe doesn't look like you or doesn't talk like you, you have an opportunity. And I think that is changing. I think that is changing. And here's why I say that. So my son is 15 years old. He's in the room right behind me playing Minecraft, right through that door. That's my office. I never get to use it because he's playing Minecraft, and that's okay. But he's 15 years old, and he'll probably get mad at me for saying this, but I'm going to say it anyway. He's on Instagram, like every other 15-year-old in the world. But my son uses Instagram as a direct messaging tool. He talks to his buds, and they have great, interesting conversations about, hockey and all the other stuff they talk about. But he never posts. He never posts on Instagram. But I noticed yesterday, I went on Instagram to see what else people were posting, and there was lots of black squares. That would make sense in Blackout Tuesday. And then I saw a post from my son, the first post he's ever posted. And it was a black square. It was around blackout. Sorry. So I guess what I'm saying is he's figuring it out. And if he can figure it out at 15, God knows the ones of us that are 15 and a half, we can be a little vulnerable and learn about this stuff too. And it's that edge walking piece. It's making a start. So there's hope.
Good for him.
I was about to, my final question was going to be, what gives you hope? And that's it, isn't it?
Yeah. And then I think there's one more thing that gives me hope, and that is just having honest conversations. I had emails and texts and Facebook posts yesterday from a whole walk of everybody that's had lived experience in this, to the blonde-haired, blue-eyed kid who felt guilty about not having a direct experience. But I had an interesting message that was sent to me by a friend. And this friend is very smart and, very erudite and a really cool guy. But he said, how dare all these white folks talk about racism on your channel? And I said simply, what would be the alternative to that? What would be the alternative? For them to just shut up about and go, I have no place in this? That doesn't accomplish actually very much. So I would rather people, whatever their lived experience is, to bring their best selves to the conversation, and then to just go, this is not about me, or I don't have a role in this, because that's not how we move society forward. And I think that's important. So be brave and have conversations.
Mm-hmm.
What that's so good. What grade is your son in?
He's in grade 9.
Isn't that amazing how that's we've been talking about grads showing off your very sassy grad pictures, but part of that is that's that era, and we all remember that time when the world is open, and that youthful, I don't actually know what I want to do, but I just want to do a lot, we kind of need that in these times. It's young people that are going to make this sort of shift happen, I think.
Yeah, acts of service matter. That's where we start to learn them. That's why I started to learn them. I started to learn them at the YMCA. Plug, I'm the marketing guy there, but that's where I started to learn them. And it's heartening to see kids our kids' age that are starting to get these messages, probably earlier than we did. I don't think I was woke until well into my second degree, but they're starting early, and good on them.
Wow. It's so good. It's so good. And so what do we do today? In your world, what's Walking the Edge look like for you on Wednesday, for those of us participating and wanting to do something today? Ken, what's your sense?
You know what? For me, it is finding allies that want to walk too, because it's pretty lonely to try to make change yourself. I have a friend who works in the nonprofit sector, as I do, and yesterday she sent a beautiful email to a bunch of us, and she just said, she basically said, we need to make a start, whatever that looks like. So we're having a Zoom call next week to figure out what that means. I don't know what that means. Maybe we'll have a potluck and we'll just invite a bunch of people into our virtual living rooms and we'll just have a chat about it and start to see if there's some actions we can take. I know that my friend John Cornish, amazing CFL player, Stampeder, he had an incident with racism, he and his wife, a couple of weeks ago. Well, I reached out to John and I sent him a note saying, hey, dude, how you doing? Maybe that's all it needs to be to start. So for me, it's just thinking about what that looked like. Yesterday, I went for a walk in my neighborhood, and there was a new neighbor. I'd never seen the guy before. And he was digging in his lawn. He was doing all the things that a neighbor does in his lawn. And guess what? He was black. And I said hi. And now I've got a new friend. And that's not rocket science, but it's something I did. And I think that's important.
That's wild.
Good on John. He started the Black Chambers of Commerce. Which is so
a
important.
mentoring group. It's around connecting youth to stories of success that are so very important. And maybe he's got $1 million in infrastructure to do that, but I doubt it. He just did it.
Isn't that great? Well, and you know what, Julie, poor Julie, she's she's working in this kitchen of hers that has terrible Wi-Fi, and she's like, I'm sorry. I'm not mad at you. It's not like anyone said anything. It's just the way it is. So she slipped off. Ken, I feel like I feel charged to say I don't know what I'm going to do today that's different than yesterday, but I hope it's a little bit different than yesterday and a little bit different than the week before. And I do feel the same as you. I do feel this is a big thing. This is not another just a news story that next week we'll be talking about something else. I think it's a big deal. So I really appreciate you coming by and chatting.
I think
an opportunity.
I kind of feel like it's our responsibility as fellow humans to not let the conversation stop.
Yeah, agree.
Right? We're all responsible to make sure.
Be kind. Look for acts of service. That matters.
Yeah.
And if you can, go to the Y, because Ken's the marketing guy there, and we want to support his job.
Thanks. We're not quite open yet, but we're working on it. Darn it.
Don't go yet.
Good man. Well, I don't know. Normally we dance at the end of the show, but we don't have Mandy here to lead the way.
If Mandy's not here, we shouldn't dance. We should just hum.
We should just hum. Let's hum along with Russ, and Julie, we're sending our love, and thanks for being part of our show today. Sorry you had to run out. And Ken, you're a good man. Thanks for being part of our
Ken.
Thank you, Ken.
Thanks,
You're
everybody.
awesome. All right, Russ, you got some music for us. We're going to hum with you.